There comes a moment in life when disappointment stops feeling accidental. You notice a pattern. People change. Promises fade. Loyalty feels conditional. And quietly, a question begins to form in your mind. Is it me? Or is this just how people are? Most of us grow up believing comforting stories about human nature, that people mean what they say, that effort is always recognized, that loyalty is returned with loyalty, that kindness guarantees respect. And for a while, those beliefs help us feel safe. They help us trust. They help us open up. But then reality intervenes. You help someone who disappears when you need them. You grow and suddenly feel distance from people who once supported you. You speak honestly and realize honesty isn't always welcomed. You give your best intentions and discover that intentions are rarely what people judge. These moments don't just hurt, they confuse, because no one prepared you for them. This audiobook is not here to make you bitter, and it is not here to teach you how to manipulate others. It exists for a different reason. It exists to give you clarity, because many of the struggles people carry today are not caused by bad luck or personal failure. They're caused by misunderstanding human nature and expecting people to behave in ways they rarely do. The uncomfortable truth is this: human behavior is driven less by ideals and more by incentives, less by words and more by emotions, less by who you are and more by how you make people feel in a given moment. Once you understand that, something changes inside you. You stop taking things so personally. You stop feeling betrayed by predictable patterns. You stop blaming yourself for reactions that were never about you to begin with. Instead of becoming colder, you become calmer. Instead of becoming cynical, you become grounded. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin observing clearly. That's what maturity really looks like. In this audiobook, we will walk through truths that many people sense but avoid naming. Truths about loyalty, truths about respect, truths about confidence, pressure, growth, and distance. Truths that are uncomfortable not because they are dark, but because they are real. You may recognize yourself in these ideas. You may recognize people you know, and at times, you may feel resistance. That resistance is not a sign to stop listening. It's a sign that something important is being touched. And understanding human nature does not make you less compassionate. It makes your compassion wiser. It does not make you trust less. It teaches you where to place trust and where to hold boundaries. It does not make you emotionally distant. It helps you stay emotionally intact. This is not about seeing people as enemies. It's about seeing them clearly, without illusions, without fantasy, and without self-betrayal. If you've ever felt confused by people's behavior, if you've ever wondered why good intentions weren't enough, if you've ever wanted to be kind without being naive, then stay with this audiobook. Listen, not to judge others, but to protect your peace. Listen, not to harden your heart, but to strengthen your understanding. Listen, not to control the world, but to remain steady within it. And if, as you listen, you realize that someone you care about needs this clarity too, someone who keeps getting hurt because they expect the wrong things from the wrong people, share this video with them. Sometimes, understanding human nature is the first step toward reclaiming your inner balance. Chapter 1. People are loyal to benefits, not to you. One of the hardest truths to accept about human nature is also one of the most liberating. People are rarely loyal to who you are. They are loyal to what you represent in their lives at a given moment. This truth cuts deep because it goes against everything we are taught to believe about relationships. We grow up hearing that loyalty is built on history, that effort creates obligation, that kindness earns permanence. We are told that if you show up enough times, care deeply enough, and give generously enough, people will stay. But human behavior does not function on moral debts. It functions on perceived value. When your presence brings comfort, advantage, stability, validation, or opportunity, people feel naturally connected to you. When those benefits fade, and the connection often fades with them, not always dramatically, sometimes quietly, sometimes without explanation, sometimes without malice. Most people are not consciously disloyal. They are simply responsive to what feels rewarding or necessary in the moment. They follow emotional gravity. Loyalty, for them, is not a principle they live by. It is a side effect of circumstances working in their favor. This is why relationships often change when situations change. A colleague who once checked in daily becomes distant when you are no longer useful to their goals. A friend who felt inseparable drifts away when your lives no longer overlap. A partner who felt deeply invested withdraws when emotional needs are no longer being met in the same way. And when this happens, confusion sets in. You replay conversations. You question your actions. You wonder what you did wrong. But often, nothing went wrong. The structure of the relationship simply shifted. This is where many people suffer unnecessarily. They interpret the loss of loyalty as a personal failure, when in reality, it is a revelation. What you are seeing is not betrayal, it is exposure. You are finally seeing what the relationship was actually built on. This does not mean people are evil. It means people are human. Human attachment is conditional far more often than we want to admit. Even love, in many cases, is tied to emotional payoff, security, status, familiarity, or validation. When those elements weaken, the bond is tested, and many bonds do not survive the test. This is why disappointment hurts so much. You thought the connection was about you as a person. The other person experienced it as an exchange. And the mistake is not caring. The mistake is assuming loyalty where no shared principle ever existed. True loyalty is rare because it requires something uncommon: inner stability. Someone who is loyal by principle does not leave when the benefit disappears. They stay aligned with values, not convenience. They remain consistent even when there is no immediate reward. But most people have not developed this level of internal grounding. Expecting it from everyone sets you up for repeated disillusionment. Another uncomfortable layer of this truth is how easily people confuse consistency with loyalty. Someone showing up regularly does not mean they are committed to you. It may simply mean the arrangement still works for them. When it stops working, their consistency vanishes. You see this clearly during moments of stress, loss, or transformation. When you struggle, the benefit you once provided may temporarily disappear. When you grow, your presence may no longer make others feel comfortable or superior. In both cases, loyalty is tested under pressure. Pay attention to who remains when you cannot give what you used to. Pay attention to who grows distant when your life starts to change. These moments reveal more truth than years of smooth interaction ever could. This understanding is not meant to make you cynical. It is meant to make you precise. Stop over-investing in people who have never shown loyalty beyond convenience. Stop confusing shared time with shared values. Stop assuming that good intentions will be recognized or returned. The world does not operate on fairness. It operates on patterns. Instead, learn to observe behavior over time. Watch who stays consistent when there is nothing to gain. Notice who respects your boundaries even when it costs them something. These are quiet signals of character. Most importantly, stop tying your self-worth to other people's attachment. When someone leaves because the benefit ended, it does not mean you are not enough. It means the relationship was never anchored beyond utility. That is not a judgment on your value. It is a clarification of reality. There is power in accepting this truth fully. You stop chasing validation. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop feeling shocked when dynamics shift. And in that space, something healthier emerges. You begin giving freely, but not blindly. You offer kindness without expecting permanence. You appreciate loyalty when it appears, but you do not demand it where it has not been earned. You become generous without becoming naive, understanding that people are loyal to benefits, not to you. Changes how you move through the world. You become calmer internally. You become less reactive emotionally. You stop personalizing patterns that were never personal to begin with. Most of all, you stop seeing human behavior as a verdict on your worth. You see it for what it truly is, a reflection of incentives, capacity, and character. That clarity does not make you isolated. It makes you intentionally selective. It allows you to build fewer relationships, but stronger ones. And it gives you something far more valuable than blind trust. Self-respect rooted in reality. Chapter 2. Most people like you until you outgrow them. At the beginning of most relationships, growth feels celebrated. People encourage your ambitions, applaud your progress, and tell you they are happy for you. But there is a quiet shift that often happens when growth stops being theoretical and starts becoming visible. When you begin to outgrow familiar roles, dynamics change. Most people are comfortable with your progress as long as it does not challenge how they see themselves. As long as you remain relatable, predictable, and within the limits of what feels safe to them, support feels genuine. But when your growth creates distance, financial, emotional, intellectual, or psychological, something subtle happens. Encouragement becomes silence, warmth becomes restraint, and presence becomes conditional. This is not always driven by jealousy in its obvious form. It is often driven by comparison. Human beings instinctively measure themselves against those around them. When someone close begins to rise, it forces an internal evaluation. Your growth becomes a mirror, and not everyone likes what that mirror reflects. Some people feel inspired, others feel exposed. For those who have not made peace with their own stagnation, your progress can feel threatening. It reminds them of goals they postponed, risks they avoided, or potential they never fully pursued. Without intending to, you highlight the gap between where they are and where they thought they would be. And instead of confronting that discomfort honestly, many people manage it by creating emotional distance from you. They tell themselves stories. You have changed. You think you're better than them. You're no longer the same person. Sometimes these stories are spoken. More often, they are simply felt. This is where confusion often begins for the person who is growing. You did not abandon anyone. You did not disrespect anyone. You simply expanded beyond a version of yourself that once fit comfortably into the relationship. And suddenly, the connection feels strained. What makes this especially painful is that growth is rarely loud. It is usually quiet. It happens through discipline, reflection, restraint, and inner shifts that are not easily explained. You did not leave people behind intentionally. You just kept moving. But relationships built on sameness struggle with change. Many connections survive because both people remain aligned in their limitations. Shared complaints, shared habits, and shared fears. Growth disrupts that balance. When one person evolves, the unspoken agreement of equality is broken. And not everyone is prepared to renegotiate the relationship on new terms. This is why some people only like you when you are accessible, when your success is small enough to be comforting, when your confidence is modest enough to feel non-threatening, when your perspective does not challenge their worldview. The moment your life expands, you may notice resistance disguised as concern. Don't change too much. Stay humble. Remember where you came from. While these phrases can come from care, they can also be attempts to pull you back into familiarity. Growth creates asymmetry, and asymmetry makes people uneasy. There is also a quieter truth beneath this dynamic. Not everyone wants to grow. Some people want stability more than expansion, familiarity more than challenge. emotional safety more than self-confrontation. And when your presence begins to disrupt that comfort, distance becomes a form of self-protection for them. Understanding this requires emotional maturity because it is tempting to interpret withdrawal as betrayal. But often, it is simply incompatibility revealed over time. The mistake many people make at this stage is trying to shrink themselves to preserve connection. They downplay achievements, silence new perspectives, or hold back growth to avoid making others uncomfortable. This is a subtle form of self-abandonment, and it comes at a high cost. When you repeatedly choose belonging over becoming, resentment grows quietly inside you. Another common mistake is trying to convince others to grow with you. While shared growth can be powerful, it cannot be forced. Everyone moves at their own pace. Pressuring someone to evolve before they are ready often creates resistance, not alignment. The healthiest response is acceptance. Accept that some people are only meant to walk with you for a certain distance. Accept that shared history does not guarantee shared direction. Accept that outgrowing others is not an act of arrogance, but a natural outcome of development. This does not mean becoming cold or dismissive. It means allowing space without guilt. It means releasing the expectation that everyone must understand your journey. Pay attention to who remains curious about your growth instead of threatened by it. Pay attention to who asks questions instead of making assumptions. These people may be fewer, but they are aligned with your direction, not just your past. It is also important to recognize that growth can feel lonely. Not because you are superior, but because you are moving through unfamiliar territory. Familiar relationships often anchor us emotionally. When those anchors loosen, the sense of isolation can be unsettling. But this loneliness is transitional. It signals movement, not loss. As you continue to grow, new connections form, often with people who resonate with your current values, not your former identity. These relationships tend to be more honest, more spacious, and less dependent on shared limitations. The key is to resist interpreting distance as rejection. Distance is often information. It shows you who connects with your essence and who connected only with your proximity. Outgrowing people is not a failure of loyalty. It is a consequence of evolution. When you understand this, you stop taking withdrawal personally. You stop apologizing for progress. You stop dimming yourself to keep others comfortable. You learn to let relationships end without bitterness, to honor what they were, without clinging to what they are no longer capable of being. And in doing so, you create room for growth that is uninterrupted and for connections that can meet you where you are becoming, not where you once were. Chapter 3. People respect strength more than kindness. Many people grow up believing that kindness naturally earns respect. That if you are patient, generous, understanding, and accommodating, others will value you more. This belief feels comforting, and in theory, it sounds right. But human behavior rarely follows ideal logic. In reality, respect is not given to those who give the most. It is given to those who stand firm. Kindness without strength is often misunderstood. Instead of being appreciated, it is frequently taken for granted. Instead of earning respect, it can invite disregard. Not because people are cruel by nature, but because the human mind unconsciously responds to boundaries, certainty, and self-command. Respect is rooted in perception, and perception is shaped by how you carry yourself when your kindness is not returned. And when someone sees that you tolerate disrespect, overextend yourself, or sacrifice your needs to avoid conflict, they do not interpret this as moral superiority. They interpret it as weakness. Even if they benefit from it, something inside them recalibrates. They adjust how seriously they take you. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths about social dynamics. People often respect those who say no more than those who say yes. They respect clarity more than compliance. They respect restraint more than endless generosity. Strength signals self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation upon which external respect is built. This does not mean becoming cold or aggressive. It means understanding that kindness must be backed by the willingness to withdraw it. When kindness is unconditional and limitless, it loses its weight. When it is selective and intentional, it gains meaning. Many people confuse being good with being agreeable, but agreeableness is not morality. It is avoidance. It is the fear of discomfort disguised as virtue, and others can sense this even if they never articulate it. Think about how people respond to calm authority. Someone who speaks clearly, sets boundaries without apology, and does not over-explain themselves often commands respect without raising their voice. Their strength is quiet, but it is unmistakable. Contrast this with someone who constantly justifies their choices, seeks approval, or bends to keep the peace. Their kindness may be genuine, but it does not anchor respect. Over time, others begin to push limits, consciously or not. This pattern is especially visible in close relationships. Friends, partners, and colleagues often test boundaries not out of malice, but out of curiosity. They want to know where the line is. When no line appears, behavior drifts. This is why people who are too nice often feel drained. They give more and receive less, not because they are unlucky, but because they have taught others how to treat them. Strength corrects this dynamic. Strength does not need to be loud. It does not need threats or dominance. It shows up as consistency, as follow-through, as the ability to walk away when something no longer aligns with your values. When you are willing to lose approval, you gain respect. This is difficult for many people because they associate strength with conflict. They fear that asserting themselves will damage relationships, but the truth is that relationships built on suppressed resentment are already damaged, and they simply appear peaceful on the surface. Healthy relationships adjust to strength. Unhealthy ones resist it. Another subtle truth is that people often feel safer around strength. Clear boundaries remove ambiguity. They reduce emotional guesswork. When someone knows where you stand, they can relax. They may not always like your limits, but they understand them. Kindness paired with strength feels different. It feels intentional, not desperate. It feels generous, not obligated. And because it is not freely exploitable, it is respected. This is why many people begin to receive more respect when they stop explaining themselves, when they stop volunteering emotional labor, when they stop rescuing others from consequences. They are not becoming less kind, they are becoming more grounded. It is also important to understand that respect does not always feel warm. Sometimes it feels distant. Sometimes it comes with fewer invitations and less access. But what it gives you in return is dignity. The goal is not to be liked by everyone. The goal is to be taken seriously by the right people. When you prioritize kindness over strength, you may feel morally safe, but socially vulnerable. When you integrate strength into your kindness, you become stable. This balance is what many people miss. They swing between extremes, either becoming harsh to protect themselves or remaining soft to preserve connection. True strength lives in the middle. It says, I care, but I will not abandon myself. It says, I can give, but I can also stop. It says, I respect others, and I expect the same in return. As you internalize this truth, something shifts. You stop trying to earn respect through sacrifice. You stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop confusing tolerance with virtue. You realize that respect is not requested, it is demonstrated. And when kindness flows from strength instead of fear, it no longer costs you your peace. Chapter 4. Most people don't want the truth, they want comfort. People often say they want honesty. They claim to value truth, transparency, and authenticity. They praise those who tell it like it is and criticize those who hide behind politeness. But when truth actually arrives, When it challenges identity, comfort, or self-image, the reaction is rarely gratitude. More often, it is resistance. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of human nature. People do not reject truth because it is false. They reject it because it is destabilizing. Truth forces confrontation, and confrontation threatens the stories people tell themselves to feel okay. Comfort, on the other hand, preserves identity. It allows someone to remain who they believe they are without friction. That is why comfort is often chosen over clarity, or even when clarity would be healthier in the long run. Most people are not consciously lying to themselves. They are protecting their emotional equilibrium. The mind is designed to reduce psychological pain, not to pursue accuracy at all costs. When truth creates discomfort, the mind looks for ways to soften, reinterpret, or avoid it. This is why honest feedback is so rarely welcomed. Even when someone asks for it, what they often mean is reassurance disguised as truth. They want confirmation that they are already right, already good enough, already justified. When truth threatens that expectation, defensiveness appears. You see this dynamic everywhere. In friendships where concerns are dismissed as negativity, and in relationships where issues are avoided to keep the peace. In workplaces where problems are acknowledged only after they become unavoidable. Silence becomes easier than honesty. Agreement becomes safer than clarity. Over time, this creates a culture of emotional convenience. People learn which truths are acceptable and which are not. They learn when to speak and when to stay quiet. And gradually, truth is replaced with what feels good in the moment. This is not because people are weak. It is because truth carries responsibility. Once something is named clearly, action becomes necessary. Change becomes unavoidable. And many people would rather live with quiet discomfort than face the effort and risk that change demands. This puts those who value truth in a difficult position. If you speak honestly, you may be labeled harsh, or insensitive, or difficult. If you stay silent, you may feel complicit in something that does not sit right with you. Navigating this tension requires discernment, not idealism. Not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every person deserves your honesty. One of the most important lessons in maturity is learning when truth is useful and when it is simply self-serving. Telling the truth to feel morally superior is not wisdom. Telling the truth without regard for timing, context, or capacity is not courage. It is impulsiveness disguised as integrity. Truth becomes powerful when it is paired with restraint. Many people confuse honesty with transparency. Transparency exposes everything. Honesty chooses what serves growth. This distinction matters because unfiltered truth can harm just as easily as comforting lies. The understanding that most people want comfort more than truth helps you stop taking rejection personally. When someone reacts negatively to your honesty, it is rarely about you. It is about what your words disturb inside them. This is why arguing with people about truth is often pointless. Logic does not dissolve emotional attachment. Evidence does not override identity. The more someone feels threatened, the more rigid they become. Trying to force truth onto someone who is not ready is like trying to wake someone by shouting. It startles, but it does not enlighten. Instead of asking, "Is this true?" a better question is this welcome? And then, is it necessary? There is also a quieter danger in overvaluing truth. Isolation. People who consistently choose honesty without empathy often find themselves alone. Not because they are wrong, but because relationships require emotional safety, not constant correction. This does not mean abandoning truth. It means understanding its cost. You are not obligated to educate everyone. You are not responsible for confronting every illusion. Sometimes, the most respectful choice is silence. Sometimes, the most powerful response is distance. At the same time, it is important not to betray yourself. Continually suppressing your perception to maintain harmony leads to internal conflict. The goal is not to replace honesty with appeasement. The goal is to place truth where it can land. Learn to recognize who values clarity over comfort. These people may be fewer, but they are capable of growth. With them, honesty deepens connection instead of breaking it. With others, emotional comfort will always take priority. Their resistance is not a challenge for you to overcome. It is information for you to respect. Another uncomfortable truth is this. People often punish truth-tellers by rewriting their character. Instead of engaging with what was said, they question why it was said. Motive replaces meaning. Tone replaces substance. This is how truth gets discredited without ever being addressed. Understanding this dynamic helps you detach. You stop expecting validation for your honesty. You stop hoping that being right will be enough. You begin choosing your battles carefully. And when you do speak, you speak with precision, not urgency. Truth is not a weapon. It is a tool. And like any tool, its effectiveness depends on how and when it is used. When you accept that most people want comfort more than truth, you gain freedom. You stop trying to wake everyone up. You stop feeling frustrated when reality is ignored. You stop mistaking resistance for misunderstanding. Instead, you focus on your own alignment. You live honestly, even when you speak selectively. You stay clear, even when others prefer fog. You choose peace without abandoning reality. That balance between truth and restraint is not weakness. It is wisdom shaped by understanding how human nature truly works. Chapter 5. People judge you by outcomes, not intentions. One of the most sobering truths about human nature is that people do not evaluate you by what you meant to do. They evaluate you by what actually happened. Intentions may matter to your conscience, but outcomes are what shape how others perceive you. This truth feels unfair, especially to people who care deeply about doing the right thing. You can try your hardest, act with sincerity, and hold good motives, yet still be judged harshly if the result falls short. The world is not organized around effort. It is organized around impact. Most people grow up believing that good intentions deserve understanding, that if you explain yourself clearly enough, others will see your heart. But in reality, explanations rarely carry the weight we hope they will. To the outside world, the results speak louder than reasons ever could. This is because intentions are invisible. Outcomes are concrete. No one can fully experience your internal struggle, your uncertainty, or your effort. They only experience what your actions produce, and human judgment tends to be blunt. It compresses complexity into simple conclusions. It worked, or it didn't. You delivered, or you didn't. You showed up effectively, or you didn't. This is why disappointment so often turns into blame. When expectations are not met, people rarely pause to consider what you intended. They focus on how they were affected. Their experience becomes the standard by which you are judged. Understanding this is uncomfortable, but it is clarifying. It explains why excuses rarely restore trust. It explains why apologies without change feel hollow. It explains why repeated good intentions do not repair consistent poor outcomes. The mind prioritizes patterns over promises. People want reliability more than sincerity. They want consistency more than explanation. Over time, they stop listening to what you say you mean and start watching what you consistently produce. This dynamic plays out in every area of life. In work, effort is praised briefly, but results are rewarded long-term. In relationships, intentions may soften conflict once, but repeated disappointment erodes connection. In leadership, vision matters less than execution. This is not because people are cruel. It is because they are practical. Human beings are wired to adapt based on experience. If an interaction leads to stress, loss, or instability, The mind associates the person with that outcome, regardless of intent. This is not moral judgment, it is psychological conditioning. Many people resist this truth because it feels dehumanizing. They want to be seen fully. They want their internal world to matter, and it should matter to them. But expecting the world to operate on internal logic rather than observable results leads to frustration. Intentions are personal, outcomes are social. Another uncomfortable layer of this truth is how often people use intentions as a shield. When confronted with negative impact, they retreat into what they meant rather than taking responsibility for what occurred. This may protect self-image, but it does not rebuild trust. Accountability begins where intention ends. This does not mean being harsh with yourself. It means being honest. It means recognizing that good motives do not cancel consequences. They coexist with them. People who mature emotionally stop defending their intentions and start improving their outcomes. They ask different questions. Not, why don't they understand me? But, what am I consistently creating? Not, what did I mean? But, what did they experience? This shift is powerful because it returns control to you. When you focus on outcomes, you move from justification to adjustment. You stop repeating the same explanations and start changing behavior. You stop expecting patience and start earning trust. There is also a liberating side to this truth. If you are judged by outcomes, then improvement is always possible. You are not trapped by who you were. You are defined by what you consistently deliver now. This is why quiet consistency often earns more respect than loud intention. Someone who speaks less but follows through becomes reliable. Someone who apologizes once and changes behavior becomes credible. Someone who produces results without drama becomes trusted. Intentions do matter, but privately. They shape your values, your direction, and your integrity, but externally, they are not currency. Impact is. Another difficult realization is that people remember negative outcomes more strongly than positive intentions. One broken promise outweighs 10 sincere explanations. This negativity bias is not fair, but it is human. The mind protects itself by remembering what caused pain. This is why rebuilding trust takes time. Not because people are unforgiving, but because patterns must be overwritten by new experiences. Words alone cannot do that. Understanding this helps you let go of resentment. You stop feeling misunderstood and start becoming effective. You stop demanding recognition for effort and start creating evidence through action. It also helps you judge others more accurately. When someone repeatedly causes harm but insists on good intentions, you learn to pay attention to impact instead of excuses. You stop being confused by mixed signals. This clarity strengthens boundaries. You no longer accept intention as a substitute for responsibility. You no longer tolerate repeated damage in the name of sincerity. You learn to say calmly, I understand what you meant, but this is what happened. That sentence reflects maturity on both sides. Ultimately, being judged by outcomes forces growth. It pushes you to refine skills, communicate more clearly, and take responsibility for results beyond your inner narrative. It removes the comfort of self-justification and replaces it with something more solid: competence. When you accept that the world responds to outcomes, not intentions, you become less defensive and more effective. You stop arguing with reality and start working with it. And in doing so, you gain something more valuable than being understood. You gain the ability to be trusted. Chapter 6. People follow. Confidence, even when it's wrong. One of the most unsettling truths about human behavior is that accuracy is not what moves people. Confidence is. People do not naturally gravitate toward the most informed voice in the room. They gravitate toward the most certain one. This truth feels dangerous because it exposes a flaw in how decisions are made. opinions are formed, and authority is granted. We like to believe that logic leads and confidence follows. In reality, confidence often leads, and logic is invited later, if at all. Human beings are drawn to certainty because uncertainty feels threatening. Doubt creates anxiety. Hesitation creates friction. Confidence, even when misplaced, offers psychological relief. It creates the illusion of clarity in a complex world. This is why people follow leaders who are wrong but decisive more easily than those who are thoughtful but unsure. The mind prefers a clear direction over an accurate one when it feels overwhelmed. Confidence simplifies reality. When someone speaks with conviction, holds steady eye contact, and moves without visible hesitation, the brain interprets these signals as competence. This happens before any facts are evaluated. Confidence triggers trust automatically. It signals safety, authority, and control, even when none of those things are actually present. This is not a moral failure. It is a cognitive shortcut. In moments of uncertainty, people look for anchors. Confidence acts as that anchor. It reduces mental load. It allows others to outsource responsibility for thinking and deciding. Following someone who appears sure feels easier than navigating ambiguity alone. This explains why misinformation spreads so easily when delivered confidently. Why charisma often outweighs substance. Why people defend leaders even when evidence contradicts them. Once confidence establishes authority, the mind works backward to justify it. Doubt is uncomfortable. Certainty is soothing. Another uncomfortable layer of this truth is that people often confuse confidence with competence. They assume that someone who sounds sure must know what they are talking about. Someone who hesitates must be unsure or unprepared. In reality, hesitation often signals thoughtfulness, not ignorance. But thoughtfulness does not inspire crowds. Confidence does. This creates a paradox for those who value truth. The more you understand complexity, the more cautious you become. The more aware you are of nuance, the less absolute your statements sound. And ironically, this can make you less persuasive in a world that rewards certainty. Many people learn this lesson the hard way. They watch less capable individuals rise simply because they speak with conviction. They see decisions made by those who are louder, not wiser. Over time, this can breed resentment or self-doubt. But understanding this dynamic is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to make you strategic. Confidence is not about arrogance. It is about coherence. People follow those who appear internally aligned. Someone who believes what they say, even if it's wrong, appears more trustworthy than someone who is correct, but visibly uncertain. This does not mean you should pretend to know what you do not. It means you must learn to communicate clarity without sacrificing integrity. There is a specific type of confidence that commands respect without deception. It is calm, not performative. Grounded, not inflated. It does not rely on dominance or volume. It relies on steadiness. Calm confidence signals control over oneself, and self-control is deeply persuasive. People respond differently to someone who speaks slowly, chooses words carefully, and does not rush to prove themselves. This kind of confidence does not overwhelm, it reassures. It does not demand attention, it attracts it. Contrast this with nervous confidence, the kind that needs constant validation, over-explains, or reacts defensively when questioned. That type of certainty feels fragile, and people sense it. True confidence allows space for disagreement without collapse. So another critical truth is that confidence influences not just others, but your own behavior. When you act with certainty, you reinforce your sense of agency. You become more decisive, more composed, more resilient under pressure. Confidence shapes identity from the inside out. This is why people who wait to feel confident before acting often remain stuck. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is a consequence of repeated, deliberate movement. The danger lies in confusing confidence with correctness. Just because people follow you does not mean you are right. Just because you feel certain does not mean you are informed. Without self-awareness, confidence can harden into ego. Ego resists correction, and once confidence becomes untouchable, growth stops. This is where many confident individuals fail. They surround themselves with agreement. They interpret challenge as disrespect. They protect certainty at the cost of accuracy. Over time, this creates blind spots that grow larger and more costly. The antidote is internal humility paired with external steadiness. You can be confident without being closed. You can lead without pretending infallibility. You can stand firm while remaining open to revision. This balance is rare and powerful. People respect those who do not collapse when questioned, but also do not attack when challenged. Someone who can say, "This is my position, and I am open to refining it," communicates both strength and intelligence. That combination builds durable trust. Understanding that people follow confidence, even when it's wrong, helps you navigate the world with clearer eyes. You stop being surprised when certainty beats evidence. You stop personalizing when truth is ignored. You stop assuming that being right is enough. Instead, you learn to communicate with intention. You ground yourself before speaking. You choose clarity over excess explanation. You move decisively, even while remaining reflective. You do not chase approval. You establish a presence. Most importantly, you stop underestimating the role of confidence in shaping outcomes. You recognize that how something is said often matters as much as what is said. You learn to embody conviction without sacrificing honesty. In a world that follows confidence more than correctness, the goal is not to abandon truth. The goal is to carry truth with steadiness. When confidence and integrity align, people listen, not because you are loud, but because you are grounded. And that is the kind of influence that lasts. Chapter 7. People reveal themselves. Under pressure. Pressure does not change people. It reveals them. When life is calm and conditions are favorable, most people appear reasonable, kind, and cooperative. Courtesy is easy when nothing is at stake. Patience is effortless when outcomes are predictable. Morality feels simple when comfort is intact. But when pressure enters, when resources shrink, status is threatened, control is challenged, or expectations collapse, something deeper surfaces. Pressure strips away performance. Under stress, people stop managing impressions and start reacting from instinct. The version of someone you see in these moments is not an exception to who they are. It is a clearer expression of it. This truth is uncomfortable because it forces us to reevaluate how we judge character. And we tend to assess people based on how they act when things are going well. But character is not tested in comfort, it is exposed in constraint. When someone feels cornered, denied, or uncertain, their priorities emerge. What they protect, what they sacrifice, what they justify, what they abandon. Pay attention to how people behave when they lose control. Not when they are winning, not when they are praised, but when they are frustrated, overlooked, criticized, or told no. That is where truth lives. Some people become aggressive under pressure. Others become manipulative. Some retreat into silence. Others externalize blame. These reactions are not random. They are patterns that were always there, waiting for stress to activate them. Pressure compresses behavior into its most honest form. This is why crises reveal relationships. When things go wrong, some people lean into responsibility. Others disappear. Some look for solutions. Others look for scapegoats. You learn quickly who values integrity and who values self-preservation above all else. It is tempting to excuse harmful behavior under pressure. To say they were stressed or they didn't mean it. Stress does not create new values, it amplifies existing ones. If someone lies when pressured, lying was already an available option in their moral framework. If someone becomes cruel, cruelty is already accessible. Pressure simply removes the mask. This does not mean people are fixed or incapable of growth. It means that stress reveals the current state of their inner structure. Some people have built resilience. Others have built avoidance. Some have practiced accountability. Others have practiced denial. The difference becomes obvious when pressure arrives. This is especially important to understand in leadership and intimacy. Anyone can lead when circumstances are easy. Anyone can be loving when there is nothing to lose. But leadership under stress shows priorities. Intimacy under conflict shows emotional maturity. Watch how someone handles disagreement. Do they listen or do they dominate? Do they seek understanding or do they seek control? Do they stay grounded or do they escalate? These moments matter more than grand gestures. Many people confuse stress responses with temporary lapses. They wait for apologies that never come, or they accept explanations that repeat without change. They tell themselves that the pressure was the cause, when in reality the pressure was the test. Patterns under pressure are signals. And another important truth is that pressure reveals not only flaws, but strengths. Some people become clearer, calmer, and more focused when stakes are high. They slow down, they prioritize, they take responsibility even when it is uncomfortable. These individuals have practiced self-regulation, they have internalized accountability. Pressure does not overwhelm them because they have learned how to remain centered. You may not notice this strength during calm periods, but when things become difficult, it becomes unmistakable. This is why shared hardship bonds people more deeply than shared pleasure. Comfort hides differences. Pressure exposes them. Understanding this truth helps you stop being surprised by behavior that only appears during conflict. It also helps you stop romanticizing potential. Potential is invisible under pressure. Reality is not. This clarity is not meant to make you judgmental. It is meant to make you observant. Do not evaluate people solely by their intentions or their words. Watch their actions when outcomes are uncertain. Watch what they do when their ego is challenged. Watch how they treat others when they feel threatened. These moments show you how safe someone truly is. It is also important to apply this truth inward. Pressure reveals you too. How do you respond when plans fall apart? When recognition is withheld? When control is taken away? Do you become reactive, defensive, or closed? Or do you stay present, reflective, and responsible? Pressure is feedback. Instead of resenting it, you can use it as information. It shows you where you are grounded and where you are fragile. It highlights unresolved fears and unexamined habits. It points directly to areas that need strengthening. People who grow do not avoid pressure. They learn from it. This does not mean seeking chaos or hardship. It means not being shocked by what pressure reveals. When someone shows you who they are under stress, believe them. Do not negotiate with evidence. Do not reinterpret patterns to preserve comfort. Acceptance is not cruelty. It is clear. When you understand that pressure reveals character, you stop investing blindly. You stop clinging to versions of people that only exist when things are easy. You adjust expectations. You choose proximity more carefully. And you also stop demanding perfection from others and from yourself. Everyone has breaking points. Everyone has patterns. The goal is not flawlessness. The goal is awareness and responsibility. People who acknowledge their stress responses can change them. People who deny them repeat them. Pressure does not lie. It does not flatter. It does not negotiate. It reveals. And once you learn to read what pressure shows you, you move through relationships and decisions with greater precision. You trust less in appearances and more in behavior. You stop being confused by contradictions. You stop mistaking calmness for character. You learn to respect those who remain steady when things are difficult, and you learn to distance yourself from those whose values collapse under weight. That understanding does not make you harsh. It makes you grounded. Because in a world where pressure is inevitable, knowing who people become under it is not pessimism. It is preparation. Chapter 8. Understanding human nature is self-protection. Understanding human nature is often mistaken for cynicism. People hear clarity and assume bitterness. They hear realism and assume pessimism. But true understanding does not harden you. It stabilizes you. Most emotional suffering does not come from what people do. It comes from what we expected them not to do. When you expect loyalty where convenience rules, disappointment feels personal. When you expect honesty where comfort dominates, betrayal feels shocking. When you expect strength from people who have never developed it, collapse feels confusing. Understanding human nature does not prevent pain entirely, but it prevents unnecessary pain. It removes surprise from patterns that were always predictable. Self-protection is not about closing your heart. It is about opening your eyes. Many people equate self-protection with emotional walls. They withdraw, distrust everyone, and isolate themselves in the name of safety. But this is not protection. It is fear wearing the disguise of control. Real self-protection is not withdrawal. It is discernment. Discernment allows closeness without blindness. When you understand how people operate, you stop over-explaining yourself. You stop offering endless chances to those who have shown you their limits. You stop hoping that insight will suddenly appear where effort has never existed. You begin responding to reality, not fantasy. This shift is subtle but powerful. You no longer interpret behavior emotionally. You interpret it structurally. You ask different questions. Not, why would they do this to me? But what incentive, fear, and a pattern is driving this? That distance creates calm. Calm is the foundation of self-protection. Emotionally reactive people are easy to manipulate. They argue, chase closure, demand explanations, and search for fairness in systems that do not offer it. When you understand human nature, you stop playing that game. You conserve energy. Another layer of self-protection is expectation management. When you stop expecting people to act beyond their capacity, resentment fades. You do not ask emotionally unavailable people to be emotionally present. You do not ask inconsistent people to suddenly become reliable. You do not ask those who avoid responsibility to carry weight. You let people be who they are, and you decide accordingly. This does not make you judgmental. It makes you realistic. Many people suffer because they keep assigning potential where there is no pattern to support it. They fall in love with who someone could be, not who they consistently are. Understanding human nature helps you separate possibility from probability. Probability protects you. It allows you to place trust strategically instead of emotionally. Trust becomes earned through behavior, not assumed through words. You stop giving access based on hope. You give access based on evidence. This alone changes the quality of your relationships. Self-protection also means understanding yourself. Knowing how human nature operates externally helps you recognize it internally. You notice when you rationalize, when you avoid discomfort, when you defend your ego instead of confronting truth. Now you stop holding yourself to a fantasy standard and start holding yourself to a consistent one. Self-awareness is protection from self-sabotage. When you understand that people judge outcomes more than intentions, you become more responsible. When you understand that confidence influences perception, you become more intentional in how you carry yourself. When you understand that pressure reveals character, you pay attention to how you behave under stress. You stop being surprised by yourself. This kind of awareness creates integrity, not perfection, but alignment. You know your tendencies and you work with them instead of denying them. You become less reactive, less defensive, and less dependent on external validation. That independence is a form of protection. There is also a quiet freedom that comes with understanding human nature. You stop trying to be understood by everyone. You stop seeking universal approval. You accept that some people will misinterpret you, resist you, or misunderstand your intentions, and you let that be. You do not correct every narrative. You do not chase every misunderstanding. You do not explain yourself into exhaustion. You choose where clarity matters. This choice protects your mental space. Understanding human nature also helps you forgive without forgetting. Forgiveness becomes less emotional and more factual. You forgive because you understand limitations, not because you excuse harm. You release resentment without reopening doors. Forgiveness without boundaries is self-betrayal. Boundaries without understanding are rigidity. Understanding allows you to hold both. Another important truth is that clarity reduces anger. Anger thrives on unmet expectations and unresolved confusion. When you understand why people behave as they do, anger loses its grip. You may still feel disappointment, but it is quieter, cleaner, and shorter-lived. You stop fighting reality. This does not mean you tolerate mistreatment. It means you respond without illusion. You do not argue with who someone is. You adjust your distance, your investment, and your expectations. Distance is sometimes the most respectful response. Ultimately, understanding human nature shifts your relationship with life itself. You stop seeing the world as hostile or unfair. You see it as patterned, predictable in its unpredictability, complex but not chaotic. You move with awareness instead of hope alone. Hope without understanding is fragile. Understanding without hope is heavy. Together, they create resilience. Self-protection is not about building armor. It is about building clarity. Clarity allows you to stay open without being naive, kind without being exploited, and strong without becoming cold. When you understand human nature, you do not lose faith in people. You lose illusions. And in that loss, you gain something far more valuable than blind trust. You gain stability. Stability allows you to choose relationships consciously, to navigate conflict calmly, and to remain grounded when others react emotionally. It allows you to care without losing yourself, to engage without overextending, and to walk away without bitterness. This is what self-protection looks like when it is mature. Not fear, not withdrawal, not hardness, but clarity, boundaries, and self-respect, rooted in a deep understanding of how people truly are. Understanding human nature does not mean seeing the world as cold or heartless. It means seeing it clearly, without illusions that quietly drain your energy and distort your decisions. Clarity is not cruelty. It is orientation. Throughout this audiobook, you've seen patterns that once felt confusing begin to make sense. Loyalty tied to benefit, growth creating distance, strength earning respect, comfort overpowering truth, outcomes outweighing intentions, confidence guiding crowds, pressure revealing character. None of these ideas are meant to harden you. They are meant to steady you. When confusion disappears, emotional reactivity fades with it. You stop asking why people behave the way they do and start recognizing how they behave. That shift alone changes everything. You no longer chase explanations. You observe patterns. You stop negotiating with reality. You adjust. This is what maturity looks like in practice. Maturity is not pessimism. It is acceptance without bitterness. It is knowing what to expect and therefore knowing how much to give. You stop overextending to earn approval. You stop explaining yourself to people who are not listening. You stop investing where there is no return, not out of resentment, but out of self-respect. Understanding human nature also brings compassion, but a quieter kind. Not the compassion that sacrifices itself endlessly, but the compassion that sees limits and respects them. You recognize that most people are doing the best they can with the awareness they have. And you recognize when that awareness is not enough to meet you where you are. With that recognition, boundaries stop feeling harsh. They feel necessary. The greatest benefit of understanding human nature is inner stability. When you no longer expect people to act against their patterns, disappointment loses its sting. You may still feel hurt, but you are no longer shocked. You recover faster. You move forward cleaner. You become less reactive and more deliberate. This clarity also turns inward. You begin noticing your own patterns with honesty, where you avoid discomfort, where you defend intention instead of improving outcome, where you seek comfort instead of growth. Awareness replaces self-judgment. Responsibility replaces blame. That internal alignment is power. Power is not control over others, it is control over your responses. It is choosing when to engage and when to step back. It is knowing that you do not need to be understood by everyone to live in integrity. So as you move forward, carry these truths lightly but firmly. Use them to guide decisions, not to build walls. Let understanding inform your expectations, not erase your hope. Stay open, but not naive. Kind, but not unguarded. Confident, but not rigid. Human nature is not something to fight. It is something to understand. When you see people clearly, you stop taking things personally. When you see yourself clearly, you stop repeating the same pain. That clarity is not the end of growth. It is the foundation of it. And if this audiobook helped you see patterns you once blamed on yourself, remember this. Awareness is the first act of self-respect. Carry it forward, apply it patiently, and allow it to quietly reshape how you move through the world. With time, this understanding becomes instinct. You choose better relationships, you make cleaner decisions, and conserve emotional energy. Life feels less dramatic, more grounded, and more intentional because you are no longer surprised by patterns you now recognize clearly daily.